Welcome to the Bethel Assembly Sermon Podcast. We're so glad you're taking a minute to listen, and we pray this message from our pastors will be a blessing on your life this week.
I want to get right to it. I probably told you last year that I wouldn't even be standing here if it wasn't for a 15-year-old girl. And matter of fact, she had hair your color, dude. Hair your color. I'm telling you right now, hair your color. And so I'm 16 years old and really about to turn 17. And I met this girl in my public high school. And I walk into class. I didn't know anything about her. She was a beautiful girl. I knew she was real pretty. And so I would kind of follow her around. I kind of follow her around the school, whatever. But I walked into class, became friends, whatever. And then one night in her backyard, she had a dog named Herbie. A dog named Herbie, the ugliest dog I've ever seen in my life. It was like foaming at the mouth, maybe demon-possessed, I don't really know. But Herbie was just near us. We're leaning next to a fence on a Friday night. I'm at her house. Her mom and dad are in the house. We're outside, whatever. And I'm just talking with her. And she out of nowhere says, she uses her voice, and she says, there's something you need to know about me. And she wasn't even joking. I'm thinking, she was, I could tell something was coming out. And I'm thinking, man, well, I'm getting kind of freaked out right now. What's wrong? Is she like an infectious disease? Is she whatever? And she said, you need to know. So I said, what is it? She says, I am a follower of Jesus. I never heard anybody in my life talk like that. Never in my life. It wasn't like, I was at church Sunday. When I went to church, my dad was a pro basketball player many years ago in the earliest times of the NBA. My dad's now in heaven. But basketball was the God in my family. And so, but I remember this girl said these words I wasn't used to. She said, I'm a follower of Jesus. And I didn't know what that meant, what that looked like. I had no idea. Following Jesus, I had nothing. We went to church maybe twice growing up on Easter to a church that really didn't preach the gospel, whatever, but we went. But when she said that, I just said, okay. And she said, we can be friends, but that's it. Well, I was wanting to be more than friends with this girl. And you guys know what I'm talking about. And I want to be more than friends. We can be friends, but that's it. She said, but my parents and I were invited to come to church with me on Sunday night. And so I'm sure I told you last year, but it's my story. I can't help it. I tell my mom and dad, I'm going to church Sunday night. My father almost passed out. When I said I'm going to church Sunday night, we never went to church Sunday morning, except for maybe 2 times in my life. So I took a shower Sunday afternoon, put on some of my dad's cologne. You got to get my dad's cologne. My dad wore Old Spice. You get Old Spice, buddy. You're gonna be a magnet. You're gonna be a magnet. I'm telling you right now. You're gonna have to get a fly swatter to beat the girls off of you. But whatever. So I put on Old Spice cologne. Old Spice. It smells good. It keeps away mosquitoes as well. I'll put on some Old Spice. Went to church, man. Baptized in Old Spice. Sat in the balcony of the church, and during the singing, which I wasn't used to, I began to cry. And I got embarrassed because I wanted to think I was a wimp. And they're crying. I'm crying during the announcements. They're talking about different things I wasn't used to hearing. And the guy get up and gave a message. I cried the whole thing. At the end of it, he gave what they called an altar call. I didn't even know what that was. But I saw people walking up, and I looked at the girl that brought me to church, and I said, I don't know what's going on with me right now, but I think I'm supposed to go down there. I didn't know what that. I was up in the balcony. I don't know where to go, whatever. So the family went, and that night I went up to an altar, and I made the best decision I ever made. I made my own decision to follow Jesus Christ. Listen, I'm standing in front of you this morning because a 15-year-old girl used her voice to impact my life. We're leaving about 14 days from Romania. We go to Romania because of one reason. A teenage kid wasn't ashamed that she loved Jesus. And because of her commitment to Jesus and using her voice, I get to stand in front of you. I'm sorry. I talk fast. I talk loud. I'm sorry. It's who I am. But I get to be with you and travel the world telling people about Jesus because a 15-year-old girl had the guts to use your voice to speak life to me. It's amazing because everyone in this room, there'll be a voice in your life that's going to prevail. For everyone in this room, matter of fact, right now, there are already voices in your life that prevail, and not just for the students, but every adult, every teacher, every admin. We all have voices that impact our lives. I'm going to start some pictures because there are good voices and there are bad voices. It says in 1 Corinthians that bad company corrupts good character. The devil will do everything he can do, the devil, to send bad voices into your life. I want to see this first picture that comes up. This is my beautiful wife, Robin, and with her is a girl named Seema. We met Seema when she was 9 years old. When Seema was found at the age of 8 years old, she was in a train station in the slums of Calcutta, India. Her mother was a prostitute. Her mother was taken in the human trafficking, the sex trade. Her mother would see men all day long, every day. And Seema would hide under a cot in the little room that they lived in. And that's all Seema knew. And we have a team that we work with, and we have a ministry in Calcutta, India, of rescuing girls and little boys actually as well out of trafficking. And we have a camp for them every October. We have a camp for children born out of trafficking. Some of them are your age. Why am I there? Because a 15-year-old kid in my high school told me about Jesus. That's why. Use their voice. But Seema was at a train station on a Saturday morning at 8 years old. We have a prayer team in India. They were walking on a prayer walk on a Saturday, and our leader there and the others are walking and praying, and they walked into a train station when Seema was 8 years old, standing there completely naked, her mother lying on a dirty train floor. Her mother was selling her to several men, selling her. Now, when you're trafficked, you're old enough to get this. I wouldn't say this to younger kids, but you can handle this. When you're trafficked or sold as a young girl, the first day of your captivity, you're abused over 30 times the first day. That would crush you of any hope of a future. So the team walked in as mothers selling the daughter. And they're placing bids to buy her. These men want to buy her to sell her and to have her used by other men over and over and over. It's horrific. It happens all over the world, but it's used in India. And so our team walked in at the right time. The men are placing bids. It turns out there was the highest bidder. There was the highest bidder for Seema. His name is Jesus Christ, the Son of God. The team walked in and rescued Seema. They brought her to the orphanage we're heavily involved in called the Home of Hope. And Seema was there for a number of years. And I want you to see the next picture. We took Seema and the other girls to a store. That's her first time ever in a store. We took her out to buy her clothes. And why are we there? Because in high school, a 15-year-old girl told me about Jesus. And we're in a store, and she was so happy buying clothes for the first time. She stood naked in a train station. Now she's buying new jeans, and we got her some, before the actual trip to the store, got some other clothes, but she's buying new clothes for the first time ever in her life. She was flourishing. One day she sat with my wife, Robin, and said, Robin, would you please help me make a card for my mother? I want to win my mother to Jesus Christ. That's Seema. Well, things have changed. Things have changed for Seema. I can barely look at that picture because some voices came in Seema's life. She went to school, was doing very well, was a great student, a beautiful young lady with life and learning about Jesus. But some voices came into her life, and Seema is no longer walking with God. She was back into that terrible life of darkness. Some other boys came into her life and began to say some things, and Seema ran away. And now we're trying to hunt Seema down, but nobody can find her. Why? Because voices get into Seema's life. Listen, there'll be voices in my life, in your life, that are going to prevail. Next picture, just one more picture. This is a young boy. If he were to walk in the room right now, he'd come running up to me and say, hi, Daddy. He still calls me Daddy. I remember this boy as a little baby at the orphanage in Romania. He'd come running out of the orphanage and hug my wife and I and calls my wife Mom, and he's got no mom and dad, and he began to grow, a great student. He speaks great English and of course Romanian, where he's from, and all these things, and we bring teams, and he'd be my go-to guy. He would be my assistant. We bring teams to Romania. And just have a touch of his great singing voice. And like the team, he'd be up there. He loved to sing and was involved in church, whatever. But something happened. Some voices came into his life. No longer Romania, no longer living for God. He's somewhere in France right now with the wrong crowd, doing things that are unthinkable. If it wasn't for God's grace, he'd actually be in prison right now. But somebody stepped in to help him. But making choices that are breaking the heart of God, and they're broken my heart as well. I see that picture, and I think if you just listen to the right voices, buddy, if you weren't with the wrong crowd, man, the future God has for you. It's one thing to talk about Sema, one thing to talk about this other young man, but what about you this morning? What about your life? Say, Greg, you know what? You seem a little bit too intense. I'm sorry. The devil's going after you with everything that he has. We see it happening across America and the world. The struggle to who I am, even as a person, even as a gender, the battles, the struggles, each of us face battles. But the key for everyone breathing in this room are what is going to be the voices or the voice that prevails in your life. And I'm not asking you, I'm not coming to play patty cake and joke around these 2 days. I love young people. I looked around during the worship. Matter of fact, I came in this morning and there's a buzz of chatter and talking. And I thought, God, the sound of voices, the sound of voices. I pray God uses your voice to impact others around you. I pray that you realize that you have a voice that can impact so many others. It was wrong voices that impacted my son right there. It was wrong voices that impacted Sema. I don't want those voices to impact and wreck your life. And that's why I'm speaking for a couple moments. I'm almost done. On a man in the Bible. I like to call him the man that almost made it to heaven. I do not want you to almost make it to heaven. I don't want you to be a young person that goes to a Christian school and you know all the right answers and you know different things, but Jesus never got deep into your heart. I don't want it to be all up here, but my prayer for all of you, because I love you, and your staff does, I know as well, that Jesus would get so deep inside of you that song would mean something, that Jesus, there's no one in my life but you. Look, I love my wife, Robin, I love my bride, but Jesus Christ is number one in my life, like he's number one in my wife's life. But the guy I'm talking about in the Bible is a man named Pilate. He was a famous governor in the Bible that presided over the trial of Jesus, and Pilate had a lot to do with sending Jesus Christ to the cross. What you see over and over in the life of this guy named Pilate are the impact of voices in his life. The verse I want to read to you is in Luke chapter 23, verse 23. It says this. It says, but with loud shouts, they insistently demanded that he be crucified. And it says, and their shouts prevailed. So Pilate decided to grant their demand. He released the man who had been thrown into prison for insurrection and murder, the one they asked for, and surrendered Jesus to their will. So imagine, there's a big crowd, and every year was the custom to release a prisoner. You got Jesus and a guy named Barabbas. He was a murderer. The guy was guilty of, everyone knew this guy is a bad dude. But when the crowds were asked the question, who do you want released? That crowd, you began to shout out with their voices, kill Jesus, kill Jesus. And the Bible says their shouts prevail in Pilate's life. For every single student breathing in this room, at the end of your life, there will be a voice that prevails in your life. And you're never too young to begin to determine what voices you'll allow to speak into your life. And it wasn't just the crowds that prevailed. You see a number of voices that did not prevail. And one voice that Pilate in his life, he heard many different voices. And some listened to, some didn't. But one voice he did listen to was the voice of Jesus himself. Can you imagine if Jesus walked through that door right there? I mean, bodily Jesus walks through that door. If he walked in this room physically, I'll tell you what I do. I hand over the mic and sit in the front row right now. I want to hear what Jesus says to me. It tells us in John chapter 18, how Pilate went back inside the palace. He summoned Jesus and asked him, are you the king of Jews? Is that your own idea? Jesus asked, or did others talk to you about me? Am I a Jew? Pilate replied, your own people and priests handed you over to me. What is it you have done? Jesus said, my kingdom is not of this world. If it were, my servants would fight to prevent my arrest by the Jewish leaders. But now my kingdom is from another place. You are a king then, said Pilate. And Jesus answered, you say that I'm a king? In fact, the reason I was born and came into the world is to testify to the truth. Everyone on the side of truth listens to me. Pilate, imagine Pilate. Imagine some famous person that you'd love to meet and greet and talk to, some great singer, some great athlete, some great maybe person in Hollywood or somebody that's famous or whatever it might be. Imagine Pilate, hear the audible voice of Jesus. He was actually there with Christ in front of him. He summoned Jesus. And he's saying things to Jesus like, are you the king of the Jews? He's actually hearing the audible voice of Jesus. But Pilate blew it. Pilate refused to listen to Jesus. We're talking to young people across the world who were hearing the voice of God. Or speaking at a youth camp, and after the youth camp, speaking, they have it like a snack bar area, or whatever you call them down here in North Carolina, Pop, whatever, where you get all kinds of junk food, health food, you know what I mean, Doritos and cheeseburgers, whatever. There's a bunch of kids, and I'm in this long line to get a Coca-Cola or something, some chips, whatever, a burger, hot dog, whatever. And I feel somebody poking me in the back. I turned around, there's this little buzzard kid, 8th grade kid, just a little buzzard. And I looked back and said, hey buddy, what's up? And he looked at me, he says, how do you know what to say? I said, what do you mean? He says, when you get up at night and you take the microphone, how do you know what to say? And I looked in his eyes, and his eyes are kind of watery. And I said, buddy, I just had this sense, I said, are you asking me? Because God's asking you to do the same. He says, yes, I just feel that God's speaking to me about serving in the ministry, but I don't know how to do it. He was a young kid, 8th grade, hearing the voice of Jesus. I think of Gabrielle in New Jersey, who said one night, I'm at an altar, this little girl, she said, well, you prayed for me in my school. I said, sure, why? She said, because last week Jesus visited me in my bedroom, and he spoke to me. This is a girl, nine or so years old. She said, he spoke and said, Gabby, I want to send revival to your school. And he gave her some things to do, and God actually sent revival to her school. Kids are getting saved, teachers getting saved, Bible studies, because one girl heard Jesus speak to her. I'm not asking, I'm begging every grade student breathing in this room. Greg, come on, lighten up. I'm 7th grade, I'm 5th grade. Greg, I'm in 8th grade, I'm in 10th grade. I got my life. I'm begging you to say, God, I want to begin now how to love your voice. I want to begin to learn now how to listen to your voice. Pilate made the wrong decision. Number one, he refused to listen to the voice of Jesus Christ. Every time you read your Bible, God's speaking to you. Every time you're in prayer, God wants to speak to you. But Pilate represents people that won't listen to the voice of Jesus, but there's another voice he wouldn't listen. So he wouldn't listen to Jesus. And also it tells us this in Matthew chapter 27, verse 19. It says, when Pilate was sitting on the judge's seat, his wife sent him a message. Don't have anything to do with that innocent man, for I've suffered a great deal today in a dream because of him. So imagine, he wouldn't listen to Jesus. This is one guy. He wouldn't listen to the voice of Jesus. And now this governor, who had authority to either release or surrender him to crucifixion, he gets a message. His cell phone goes off. He gets a text message. Somebody walks up and whispers in his ear and says, hey, Governor Pilate, your wife sends a message. It's an urgent message. Listen, I love you, but if my thing goes off and my wife says, Greg, it's an emergency, call me. I love you. I'm stepping out of the room to talk to my wife. I love you, but if my wife, someone walk in, Greg, your wife is there's an emergency. I'm sorry, I love you. I'll come back in a second. But I know my wife, her voice means something to me. So she says to her husband, she says, baby, listen, don't mess with Jesus. Don't mess with him. Don't mess with Jesus. And honey, last night I had a dream, and it was just, I suffered last night in my mind. She said, have nothing to do with that innocent man. But Pilate wouldn't even listen to his own wife. You see, God loves young people so much, he will speak to them directly through his word. God still speaks to young people. But also, there's people around us that know us and love us and care about us. I remember when I was in Bible school, I came 30 days away from marrying another girl, 30 days away. I mean, we had showers. I was already moved in the apartment. We were getting married, ministry, whatever. It was all wrong. It was all ridiculous, whatever. I was immature, still immature, but immature, whatever. And my mom and my dad were so against it. My mom took a train ride from Massachusetts to Pennsylvania, stayed up all night in my apartment saying, Greg, I'm begging you, son, don't make the wrong choice. I said, Mom, say what you want. I'm getting married in 30 days, whatever. Some of my best friends, Charlie Simple, Bob Peters, my friend said, Greg, you're making the wrong choice. I will listen to any of my friends. Thank God, just before that wedding, 30 days before, God got through to me in a number of ways. And we broke off that engagement. And now I've been married for 44 years to my wife, Robin. But listen, listen, there's people that God will send to you that actually love you. And those that love you won't always say what you want to hear. And that's why it's important, your teachers, your admin, your parents, whatever. And some I know different backgrounds of families. But listen, there's people in your life that care about you. I've told that young man over and over. I said, listen, no matter what, I love you. No matter what, we're here for you. But I'm not going to enable you. Dad, can you send me some money? Listen, I love you. I'm not going to finance your disobedience. I'm not going to do that. I'll buy you clothes. I'll buy you food. But I'm not going to enable. And you see what happens is we can resist sometimes the voices of people that love us the most. And there's probably some breathing in this room that say, Greg, you know what, you're here today, whatever, for a couple of days, whatever, you're here, whatever. I'll listen to whoever I want to, and I get that, and you're going to do that. I'm going to do that. You're going to do that. But at the end of the day, be careful of the voices you listen to, and be careful of the voices you don't listen to. He will listen to Jesus Christ, the Son of God, who was truth and God. Jesus is truth. He's always has your best interest in place. That guy, you can take that picture down because it's messing me up a little bit, but I love that kid so much. If that kid would have called me right now and said, Greg, you know what, or Dad, I'm coming back to God. I went back to the kingdom, whatever. He has no idea what we would do to help him and to launch him and to support him, whatever. But there's voices that got a grip upon him. And I promise you, even at Christian school, among young people and adults, voices can get a hold of you. Be careful the voices that prevail in your life. He would not listen to Jesus. He would not listen to his own wife, which represents people, our closest friends, our family, our loved ones, those that are over us in ministry that care about us and that care for our souls. He wouldn't listen to his own wife. Be careful who you close your ears to. There's somebody else he wouldn't listen to, though. I'm almost done. He wouldn't listen to Jesus. He wouldn't listen to his own wife. And Pilate wouldn't listen to the one voice. He hears more than any other voice. Because that's a voice you hear more than any other voice. And that's your voice. The voice you hear in your head more than any other voice is your own voice. It's called your conscience. It speaks to you every day, all day long. It says in Matthew 27:15, that was the governor's custom at the festival to release a prisoner. Shows him by the crowd. At that time, there was a well-known prisoner whose name was Jesus Barabbas. When the crowd had gathered, Pilate asked him, which one you want me to release to you? Jesus Barabbas or Jesus was called the Messiah? For he knew it was out of self-interest that they handed Jesus over to him. And then Matthew 27:24, Pilate, when he saw he was getting nowhere, but that instead an uproar was starting, he took water in front of the mansion. He took water and a towel and a basin, washed his hands in front of the crowd. He says, I'm innocent of this man's blood. It's your responsibility. So he will listen to Jesus. There's some people that will listen to anybody. I'll do it my way. If you do it your way, you'll get your own way. And so we'll listen to his wife, those that know him and love him and care about him. He won't listen to himself. Because it tells us he knew it was out of envy they were trying to have Jesus killed. He knew that Jesus was innocent. His wife knew that he was innocent. He knew, but Pilate gets up in front of anybody. It takes a basin of water and some soap, and this is the actual towel that Pilate used. I have it, it's right. This is the actual towel Pilate used. He washes his hands and says, I'm innocent of this man's blood. Be careful when you violate your own conscience. Be careful when you get to a place, whether you're a young person or an adult. I'm speaking to myself, everyone breathing in this room. When you violate in your conscience what you know is the right thing to do. I could give you story after story of young people that have made wrong choices, and they violated their consciences, and they knew it was right because God speaks, that the inner voice and that conviction. We just feel that check. I know if something is wrong. We often can't define it, but there's a check. There's that sense. You know what? That might not be the right thing for me. It might not be the best decision. It might not be the way I should go. But and God's speaking inside of us. And we know it ourselves that Jesus is true. He's God's Son. He loves us. And you all know that Christ is the answer, whether you follow him or not. Jesus is the only answer. But sometimes that voice inside of us, whatever, or other voices, but inside we know often the right thing to do. But he wouldn't listen to his wife, as Pastor Webb comes. And he wouldn't listen to his wife. He wouldn't listen to himself. But this amazes me, and I'm done. Are you with me, someone? If you're with me, someone say yes. Are you still with me? Come on. This amazes me. He chose to listen to voices of people he didn't even know. It says in the text we read in the beginning that the shouts of the crowd prevailed. There's massive numbers of young people. I'm not looking to wreck your day. I'm not, honestly. I love that fun, love the goof around. Matter of fact, I want to meet your wife after your wife after church today. I want to meet your wife. And how many years you've been married? 4 years, whatever. Thanks. Give me a high five. I like this guy. I like this kid. So but listen, this is serious. This is huge. What voices are going to prevail in your life? And I get it. I remember being in a bus in high school going to an away basketball game. And I remember the moment sitting on the bus thinking, man, this is living the dream. Got an away hoop game. This is big. This is big. I can't wait tonight, man. Throw in 20, get 15 boards, man. Just give them, just think it. And you know what? But life goes by so quick. And that's so hard, I know, for any student to grasp. But I'm telling you, because I love you, the day is going to come. If you were to say, well, Greg, you're being too intense, tell that to the devil that lied to Sema. You're incredible young people. You're gracious. You've been listening. I mean, as a staff, they've been listening so well. You all deserve like 3 months of no test and no homework. We'll see if we can do that for you. You've been so delightful to be with. But the devil can't stand you. He can't stand you. He's out to steal and kill and destroy. How does he do it? Voices. 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 He wouldn't listen to Jesus. He wouldn't listen to the one that would suffer and die on the cross for his own sins. The message from his wife, he just blew it off. Honey, okay, you had a bad dream. It's whatever. Just get over it. Work it out. Whatever. Have another cup of coffee. Have a bagel. Go to Jersey Mike's and Williamston. You'll get over it. Come on, you're going to be fine. He wouldn't listen to his own wife. Wouldn't listen to his own conscience. But it's not me. It's the Bible. When the people began to shout, kill him, kill him, kill him, it says, the shouts of the crowd prevailed. I say this very gently because you're young people. I don't want to overdo anything, but I want to say this very gently. There are young people that run this morning through the quarters of hell because they listen to the wrong voices. They listen to wrong voices. Be careful the voices that you listen to, and be careful of the voices that you will not listen to. There's one more picture I want you to see. I want you to see this last picture. We're going to be done with this. That's Lavinia. Lavinia now is about 20 years old. We stood in her home in Romania when she was 15 years old, sobbing in front of her mom and dad. Her mom and dad said, honey, get a job at the factory, just do this. But she looked at her mom and dad. My wife and I were sitting in their little humble home. I'm going to actually be there in about 2 weeks. She said, Mom, God has called me to serve him with my life. I'm called by God to live for the Lord. I need to serve the Lord. I feel called to ministry. Now, everyone here will not be called to vocational ministry, but you're going to be all called to serve God. Her parents, lovely, godly people, they were saying, honey, but honey, you don't, you're young, whatever, just go to the factory, do this, do whatever, just whatever. But when they saw this fire in their daughter, they realized God has spoken to her. God has spoken to a 15-year-old kid. And they began to speak life into her. I know some people in America, moms and dads, that tell the kids, do anything but don't serve God. Don't go in the ministry. Don't do this and don't do that, whatever. Listen, God began to speak through her mom and dad saying, honey, we don't understand it all, but we love Jesus. We know that you love Jesus, and baby, you just do whatever God tells you. Now she's maybe 20 or 21 years of age. She's serving in full-time ministry and feeding programs. She's probably in some poor gypsy village right now feeding kids in Romania. I'll be with her just days. We leave Easter night. She's serving, feeding, teaching children, involved in ministry and praying for people, loving on people, serving people. She's involved again in the feeding program, the kids ministry. They go in many poor villages. Lavinia is a great example of a young lady. And the natural, it was for her, it was, how is God going to finance this? How's God going to finance this? And we have had a dream for years to support young people overseas. I want to serve God overseas. And when she sensed God's call and her parents finally said, yes, I came back to America, and through our ministry partners, for the first 2 years, we're able to fully support Lavinia in the ministry. Fully support her. Fully support her, funds, every need met, food, everything was taken care of. After 2 years, the leadership there said, we see God's hand on this girl. We're not going to let her go. She now serves full time in the ministry. Why? Because the right voice prevailed in her life. And that voice is Jesus Christ. That voice is Jesus Christ. I want to end with this, and we're going to be done. Pastor Webb said, try to talk until 2:30 today, but I can't go that long. I don't know enough to talk that long. He didn't say that. I'm only kidding you. But I want to ask you something this morning, and I'm done for this first session. What voices right now are prevailing in your life? Remember the person sitting next to you. Remember the one that you always hang out with, and it may be a good thing, but it may be a bad thing. Because bad company corrupts good character. Doesn't matter what age, bad company corrupts good character. All that to say, because I love you. Don't let the wrong voices prevail in your life. Don't let the voices of people that don't give a rip about your soul or your future prevail. Don't, like Pilate, let the voice and the shouts of the crowd prevail. Be a Lavinia and say, you know what? I want your voice to prevail in my life. I want you more than anything else. Jesus Christ, I don't know all the answers. I got struggles, I got temptations, I've got weaknesses, but God, I want you to know this morning and a Monday morning, I want your voice to prevail in my life. I'm not asking you, I'm begging you, because we need you. God, raise up some young people in North Carolina that say, God, I'll live for you, and I'll live for you starting right now. You've been so amazing. I want to ask you a favor. I want to ask you to stand all over this room, if you would be so kind to do that this morning. I want you to stand right where you are. You've been so gracious and so kind. I remember that from being a year ago, how kind you guys were and how gracious and polite. And I'm so grateful for that you're here saying, God, I'm open for all that you want to do in my life and through me. But here's what we're going to do this morning. I've dug a narrow path, I know. And the narrow path I've dug this morning is what voices prevail in your life. For me, Jesus Christ, my wife, my friend Bobby Hewlett, John Wagner, Jamel Mayo, Brent Galbraith. I can name some people. They're voices that speak into my life. They're trusted voices that I know love me and care about me. Voices, my sister Nancy, my brother Bob, My younger brother, voices that speak truth in life, and sometimes it may not be what we want to hear because our flesh wants to sometimes give in to other voices. But be careful of the voices that prevail in your life. Here's what we're going to do, and we're going to end with this. You've been so kind. I'm humbled to be here. Thanks for putting up with me today. I'm going to ask you a favor. I want you to close your eyes and bow your head right now, not just out of respect and reverence. Out of respect and reverence, you've been so kind. Just not because we're embarrassed, not because we're ashamed, not because if somebody's talking to you right now, give them, I'm giving you permission, give them a sharp elbow in the rib cage right now and say, dude, not now. We're in the Holy Spirit zone, not now, because God is speaking to students right now in this room. Why? Because like Seema and like Novi, He wants you to make right choices. He wants you to begin to build a foundation in your life of letting the right voices prevail. One man said it well, your friends can take you to hell, but they'll never be able to get you back out. You must listen to the right voices. So I'm going to count to 3. The moment I say 3, I'm not going to ask you to raise your hand. I'm not going to ask you to yell yes or whatever. But the moment I say 3, it'll take some courage. But it takes courage to live for God. It takes some guts to live for God. It takes courage to stand up for what you believe in, to stand firm on who Jesus is in His Word. So it's going to take some courage. If you can't do it in here, we'll never do it outside the walls of this great place. The moment I say 3, you say, Greg, I'm here this morning, and I want the Lord to know I can't do it my own strength, but with His help, I want Him to help me to begin to listen to the right voices. And I want Him to know that I want His voice to be the voice that always prevails in my life. I want His voice to be the voice I listen to, I respond to, and I obey, because I know that nobody loves me like Jesus does. If that's what you want. If you're in the room and say, Greg, you know what? Preach, sweat, spit, do whatever you want, but I want to live my own life. Look, and I get that. That's your call. If that's you, stay right where you are. When I say for you, stay right where you are. If you say, Greg, I want to live life my way, do it my way, make my choices. I don't care what anyone says. Then you stay right where you are. That's between you and God. You got to work that out. You got to work that out. But when I say 3, God, give us somebody in this room that says, I might be in 5th grade, I might be in 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, or senior, but I want God to know I want His voice to prevail in my life now and every day forward as He helps me and walks with me.
Thank you for joining the Bethel Assembly Sermon Podcast. For more information on our ministry, visit our website at askewvilleassembly.com.